it's great to be here with everybody tonight, and it's a privilege to interview Bob. So I thought what we'd do is we'd cover a bit about the industry at such an exciting time in media and technology, and we'd also talk about leadership and entrepreneurship and management, because that's obviously of great import to the students.
Right.
But let's start with sort of the founding legend of BET. I was reading this book this weekend, as I said to you, and your name was just in this book I was reading about John Malone. And the story that the author tells, in 1979, you schedule a meeting with John Malone. You come out to Denver, and you tell John the vision for BET. And John Malone says, "How much do you need?" And you say, "I need $500,000. And Malone, I'm going to read from the book, Malone immediately called in TCI. TCI was a cable company at the time. TCI's lawyer, who had drawn up a one-page agreement. Moments later, the TCI treasurer handed Johnson a check for $500,000. The entire transaction took 45 minutes. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. John, I met John when I was a lobbyist for the National Cable Television Trade Association, and we got to talking, and he said, "Bob, if you ever have an idea, come out to Denver and talk to me." And the idea of BET was not necessarily the idea for the channel was my idea, but the idea for the concept of black-oriented programming really had its sort of genesis, if you will. And if you think about it, the great, you're talking about a legend, the great John Johnson. You know, John Johnson with Ebony magazine chronicled the rise of the black middle class. And he recognized that there were stories to be told about the black middle class. For those who are as old as I am, who know anything about Life magazine and Look magazine, you know, they weren't telling that story. So John figured he would tell it. But he had to get two things, the same thing I had to get in cable. He had to get advertisers and he had to get distribution so people could go buy it before they would start buying by subscription. So BET was really a follow-on to black magazines, Ebony Jet, follow-on to black radio, reach black listeners, Essence, and so on. The thing that BET had different, obviously, it was a technological distribution system of satellite to cable. So when I went to John, I was really sort of standing on the shoulders of those guys, John Malone, Ed Lewis at Essence, and the like. And so John asked me, he said, "Bob, how much do you need?" I said, "I need $500,000. And I said, okay. John said, "Okay." He said, "Bob, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy 20% of your company for $180,000, and I'm going to loan you $320. And you'll be 80, and I'll be 20. Is that a deal, Bob?" I said, "John, that's a deal." Now, what John didn't know at the time, had he reversed the numbers and said, "I'll be 80 and you'll be 20, I would have said, "John, that's a deal." He never did it. And so same true story. So John brings his lawyer in, 45 minutes, one-page document. I grew up in a small town born in Mississippi, but grew up in a small town in Freeport, Illinois. 30,000 people, 10% African-American population, maybe. So John writes me this check for $500,000. Now, $500,000 for me is equivalent to all the black wealth, the total GDP of everybody in Freeport. So I'm terrified to have this $500,000 check.
Yeah.
I know when I go back home, the plane's gonna crash, somebody's gonna rob me and everything. I'm scared. I'm scared to death. So John gives me this check, made out to me, and he had no controls, whatever. I could have gone any place. So I get the check. You know, I'm not dumb. I mean, I may have been nervous, but I wasn't dumb. I get the check first before I ask him a question. I said, "John, I've never run a business before, but I got the check by this time." And I said, "What should I do?" He said, "Bob, real simple. Get your revenues up, keep your costs down." That was my JW Institute, Harvard, Wharton, Stanford Business School thing. Revenue up, costs down. I ran BET like that for 20 years. Revenue up, costs down.
And you know, it's funny, a lot of the students here think about entrepreneurship and starting their own businesses. I met a woman earlier in the night who wants to start a business in etiquette education. And how do you get from the idea to launching a cable network? Do you take it in steps? Did you write copious notes? What is the process from this is a great idea, I'm going to take this to John Malone, to building a multi-billion-dollar company?
As an entrepreneur, I liken entrepreneurs to explorers. Explorers just believe there's something out there. It's a little bit of daring along with ignorance is bliss. If you don't know what will hurt you, you probably do anything. That's why little kids will put their finger on a hot stove. They don't know what'll hurt them, they'll put it on there. As an entrepreneur, you believe that there's a future out there, and you somehow in you, in your DNA, is that ability to see over the hill before somebody else sees it. And so when I'm starting BET, I recognized that there was a need for this, but you know, how do you aggregate African American households all across the country? Television wouldn't do it because television is restricted to a signal strength that goes to a DMA. Radio the same way. Magazines, same way. You got to get it in drugstores and so forth. Cable provided ability with the technology revolution. Bump a signal off a satellite down to every cable home in America. All of a sudden you can aggregate 30 million African American homes over cable. You don't know this going in. I mean, you sort of learn about it and you hear about it from all the guys who are entrepreneurs. And what you have to do is you have to have that belief, that blinder belief that I can do it. It's almost like the first guy who climbed Mount Everest. The mountain's been there forever, and all of a sudden somebody say, you know, I really think I want to climb to the top of that mountain. You know, there's no money up there, no women up there, you know, so I just want to do it. So the guy climbs to the top of the mountain because he believes he can do it. It's there. So when I started BET, I said, somebody is going to create, using this technology, a channel to target the 30+ million African Americans or the 13 million households. And they're going to do it because the technology is there, the product, the advertising is there, the talent's there. And if I don't do it, I'm going to wake up one morning hating myself when I read in the paper that John Johnson did it before me. And I'm going to be all upset. But so you go out and do it. So if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be willing to sort of see a vision, have a vision, and have the daring, almost the audacity to do it. I mean, I remember when Ted Turner started CNN. I would say any of you guys, go back, and some 30-some years now, go back and look at the stories that were written when Ted Turner announced he was going to do CNN.
Yep.
There were some people, particularly in mainstream media, just sort of making jokes about the idea who would watch 24-hour news. I mean, why would anybody want to see news? You probably did. 24-hour news, nobody's going to do that. There's no news 24 hours a day, you know, that's the whole thing. And I remember we was talking with Ted. Ted was pitching it to the cable operators. He was at a convention, and somebody said, one of the guys asked, Ted, what happens if there's a day when there's no news? And Ted said, you know, Ted was crazy. Ted said, you know what? We got a group of people who will go out and set fires at people's houses. And we'll send fire trucks out, and we'll create our own news. And, you know, Ted was probably halfway true. But that was the concept. He just believed where the network saw news as Walter Cronkite and Huntley Brinkley, you know, at 5:30 to 6. And maybe they saw it a little bit in the morning and on Sunday. They didn't see themselves because CNN could have been done easily by ABC. ABC certainly could have done ESPN. Remember ABC, Wide World of Sports, you know? Why didn't they do ESPN? They finally bought it later on. CBS, Walter Cronkite, the Tiffany brand.
Why do you think that is? Why do that? And you see, we've seen this time and time again. The incumbents, they never do it. Why do you think that is? Is it because it's too small?
It's an arrogance of complacency. I'm comfortable doing what I do, and nobody can challenge what I do. John Johnson could have done BET. He had advertisers, he had brands, he had relationships with all the top black talent in the country. He could have done BET. He say, hey, look, I'm happy, I got this, I'm first, why do I want to do something and maybe don't know about? Same thing with CBS, same thing with NBC, all of them. They could have done these things, but they saw themselves as television networks dominating the landscape. They ignored the technology, they ignored the innovation, they ignored the shifting behavior of the consumer. The consumer wanted more choices, they wanted more information. They assumed that consumers were happy when Uncle Walter would come in between 6 and 6:30 across the nation. At 6:30, I never want to hear news again. That was their theory, and they stayed away from it. And I'll tell you another example, what you call somebody just lost they missed the switch. Blockbuster. Netflix was Blockbuster after Blockbuster failed to be Netflix.
Yep.
They assumed that for the rest of their lives, people would get in their car and drive down to a store, get a DVD that was half rewound, and they'd take it home, keep it in their house, and then if they didn't take it back, they'd get fined for not taking it back, and they'd put it back half rewound because they had to pay the fine. They figured people will do that forever. And all of a sudden, Netflix, somebody said, you know what, why make people get in their car and go down to the store to get a DVD? Let's just ship it to them.
Yeah.
People are lazy anyway, and let them stay home. and they started doing that. And then eventually they said, you know, we got these people who like this stuff we're giving them. Let's see with the new technology, let's just send it to their home, and they don't have to get the DVDs anymore. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Netflix pops up, Blockbuster goes the way of the dodo bird. And that's what happens when, you know, people who, you know, are not able to see over the next hill. And that's a unique thing that entrepreneurs have, same things for. I mean,
if you're a student here and you go and you join a company, and you know, conceivably there were people at Blockbuster that worked there that could see over the next hill, right? Conceivably there were people at ABC, probably young people, that could see over the next hill, and somehow they're not able to get these ideas pushed forward, and they're not able to make management, you know, see the light of day. Is there an operational lesson or idea that you have how to fix these companies, how to get people to see over the hill, or does it always have to be done from the outside by the entrepreneur?
Well, I think the thing I would say to the entrepreneur who can see over the hill and then the companies don't do it, leave and go out and try it on your own. You know, most of the people who became entrepreneurs left the comfort of the cocoon. They left the companies to go out and take a risk. I mean, every great explorer that ever discovered anything, or every innovator, they simply said, you know, this company or this environment is not conducive to risk, failure, and out-of-the-box thinking. And if you stay in that situation, you will become part of that clone of groups of people who just think like they're supposed to think. And so if you're going to be that entrepreneur, the first thing you do, obviously, you know, out of loyalty, I would argue, you go to the people and say, hey, I've got this idea. Can I work on it, or will you support it? And if they don't support it, you can do one of two things. You can get mad and let somebody else discover it, or you can leave and try to go out and share your vision with people who think like you, and people with an entrepreneurial bent, like I did with John Malone, who thought like I did that there was an opportunity to do something. To the extent that they have a vested interest, it's better. He had cable systems. He wanted cable subscribers. That helped. But that's what you got to do, because otherwise you will take the safe route.
What is success? I mean, a big theme that Strayer has kind of worked on this past quarter has been kind of a redefinition of success. What does success mean to you, and has that definition personally for you changed over time?
Success to me is just the personal gratification that you probably achieved two or three things. One, a sort of a belief that what you thought you could do, you did. You put yourself out there, you took the risk, you sacrificed certain things, and you said, I think I can do this, and you did. That's satisfying. Now keep the money out of it for a moment. So that's what you do believe. Now and then the second thing is, and this is where obviously success comes in, if you work hard and sacrifice and everything is, your next thing is this: have I done enough to secure my family and my future with enough fulfillment? That's the second thing. You got to measure it. You can't just, you know, just leave everybody out there. But particularly if you're an entrepreneur, somebody else rides along in the sacrifice car with you.
What is the culture of a Bob Johnson company, and does it vary by company? Was it different at BET than it is, you know, at the video lottery?
The RJ company? Yeah. No, the culture, at least I did, first of all, is total treatment of everybody fair and equal. Mm-hmm. Nobody is entitled, I don't care what their position, how critical they are to the company, is to pick on somebody who's at a lower rung. You know, that is just unacceptable. I don't care if you're making 80% of the profits for the company. You treat somebody below you in the rank, I don't care who it is, you're fired. I don't even debate it.
Okay.
Then that's it. So you got to treat everybody equal. Second thing is, you got to be transparent with people. you got to tell them what the issues are. If there are challenges, you got to tell them. If there are opportunities, you got to tell them. They got to believe that you're going to work as hard for them as they're going to work for you. And that's the other. So everybody is aligned in it. And then that culture is, you got to be absolutely transparent in the sense that you are complying with all rules and regulations of law, or if you got partners in a deal, you're committed to them and everything else.
What's going on with media right now, and what are the big few changes you see? Maybe talk a bit about the over-the-top venture you're working on now.
What's going on in media? Media is becoming ubiquitous. I mean, it is available to you where you want it, when you want it, how you want it. And the gatekeepers have been destroyed. Everybody is a producer. Everybody's a creative voice. Everybody can reach you if you want them to reach you. That's the one thing. As a result of that, the change in consumer behavior is affecting the large companies that see themselves as sort of editorial control of what you see and what you watch and what content you receive. And that's going to only expand. Once the genie is out the bottle, it can't stop. I mean, I can take you back 20 years ago, 25, whatever, 30 years ago when I started BET. I had to fight to get on 17 channels because the cable operators said we only got 17 channels. We got 450 megahertz system. That's all we can output on a coaxial cable system. Now, today, Fios, 1,000 channels, and the internet, unlimited capacity. So that's what's happening, and as a result, people are being free to consume where they want to consume it and when they want to consume it. Now, the consequence of that is that, from the standpoint of media, anything that's out there can become either constructive or destructive, because there's enough people to get a lie. It used to be, to get a lie, you really had to go through somebody who was going to filter that lie and make sure you didn't get it. But now you can get a lie or a truth, and all it needs to do is get to 20,000 people, 100,000 people, and then 20,000 people repeat it across. It's infinite. And so we get some distortions in media, and it creates some distortions in society. You know, you talk about big data?
Yeah.
There's big media, but there's also small media. Now, what we do, we like to play in the niche meeting. So with RLJ Entertainment, we've created a company called the Urban Movie Channel. So it's sort of BET 2.0, if you will, where we are targeting African Americans and urban Americans who want content targeted at their interests so that they can see movies that they want to see. So talent who can't get their movies seen because the gatekeepers are still controlling studios and everything and TV, that they can produce, and the fans who want to watch it, the consumers, can pay for it. And we think that ecosystem works for niche audiences and target audiences who want to have something outside of some of the, there's still some walls of creativity. It still takes capital, but the cost of capital is so low you could do it. But in order to do it from an economic standpoint, as a business, as an individual, you can do it and not worry about it. But as a business, you got to create an economic model. And so that's what we're doing with the Urban Movie Channel. We want to say to the 2 million African Americans who buy HBO and Showtime at $20 a month, and that's about $1 billion on an annualized basis if you take it that way, we offer you programs that you want to see at $4.95. So your argument is, okay, you can keep HBO and keep Showtime, or you can drop one of them and you can take this $4.95 and get what you want to see. That's the beauty of the internet. That's the liberating factor. And we can be global. We can be in Nigeria as well as we can be in Newark. And so that's the essence of what the internet and the digital world has done to liberate us. Sociological, psychological things that come with it, and we have to be concerned about.
So I'd love to take a couple questions from the audience. Do we have any questions? Oh, this is a great group. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm an aspiring entrepreneur myself, and you automatically optimistic about the future. If you weren't, then you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't pursue it. So can you talk about how you got through the tough times? I assume that it wasn't all peaches and cream all the way up to where you are now. So
No.
how did you get through the tough times? What kept you going?
Well, first of all, you're right. You got to be optimistic. You got to believe. I fundamentally believe that one day BET would be a successful business. And I remember when I first started BET, I'd go to New York to sell advertisers. And this was when I first started. I'd land at LaGuardia Airport, get on a bus, take the bus into town, go into an ad agency, and say, I want you to buy this thing called BET. They say, what is BET? And then I got to go through the litany. I got to explain, well, BET is on cable. What's cable? And BET is a program on cable, then I explain cable. And how's BET get on the cable? It's from a satellite. What's a satellite? So I got to go explain a satellite. And they say, who's the program targeted to? It's targeted to African American, black people. Black people can't afford cable. All right, and then I'll go into that. And then I say, and I say, well, I want you to advertise. Why do we want to advertise on BET when we reach every black person on Cosby? You know, and you go through that, and sometimes you walk out of that agency talking to a 25-year-old white guy, and you want to start a race riot because you're just saying, this person does not understand how important this is and what I'm doing. I'm changing the world for black people. I'm doing this. And you walk out there, you almost want to break into tears. But you keep on going. You go to the next agency and you talk to them, and they say, yeah, we want to do something with you. We think there should be we do something with black colleges, and can you do black college football? Yeah, we can do black college football. We didn't know how, but yeah, we can do it. And so all of a sudden, every time you get a marker that sort of keeps you going, it keeps you going. I remember one time, one ad agency says, you know, they were talking about the nascent cable companies, a basic cable company that was starting out, and they did a little thing in the magazines. And one lady said, we think BET is going to succeed because Bob Johnson's such a nice guy. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll take it. Yeah. But, you know, but that's what you do. You get that kind of thing. So the same thing, and so flash forward, I got to do the same thing with cable operators. Go to cable operators, say, would you carry me? Bob, we only got 18 channels, and we got to put these on and these on because there are more white people in our community. The black cities aren't wired yet, so we can't carry you. And you keep saying, wait a minute, but you know, black people subscribe to cable more than this. They watch more TV. They do have disposable income, all the things. And you got to tell that story, and you do it, and ultimately, over time, it's just saying. But you never lose faith or confidence in your belief, because the moment you do that, and the moment you give up on yourself, you can bet your bottom dollar everybody's going to give up to you, give up on you.
BET is over and done with for you. You sold it. Is there another cable network in your future, or is
no? The Urban Movie Channel is my cable network. It's a digital. No, I wouldn't do another analog cable channel for the things we talked about. Right. You know, the people eventually. The technology will cause people to stop buying bundles. And eventually the regulators will stop the cable operators from forcing people to take bundles when they can go a la carte. That'll happen. So no, I wouldn't do it. But having said that, I think BET is one of the greatest things that I've ever done, and it will be around forever. And, you know, and I'm very proud of what it is today as it was when I had it. And, you know, I can bet you guys dollars to donuts that when you read the obit in the Washington Post, it'll say Bob Johnson, founder of BET. It won't say Bob Johnson, founder of RLJ Companies. It'll say BET.
So what's next for you? Just growing RLJ and that's it?
Yeah, next for me is working with people like Tracy to say, I think I can do this. I mean, you know, once I sold BET, you know, your options become you can do nothing. You can go fishing, play golf, you can hang out. Or you can get back and say, I really have ideas, and all I got to do is find ideas and bright people to help execute those ideas. And one thing I really love to do is finding talented people. And one thing I've been blessed with is being able to attract talented people, partly because some of the things I talked about earlier, that if you can find talented people, give them support, share your vision with them, and to the extent provide capital. It's really fascinating to watch them grow companies into businesses.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was, how do you feel about your new endeavors and the stability of, you know, building a new company with everything evolving, such as Google, as you were stating, in their division of YouTube? Because, like you said, everyone can put out content. So where do you feel as though you have that stability to sustain your new endeavors?
Well, two things. I mean, one thing, a good friend of mine, Quincy Jones, has said this. He said, it's about a word, it's about a song. If you can create compelling content, either in the spoken form or in verse song, people will come to it. I don't care whether they're black, white, red, or blue. So what we have to do, and the reason I have confidence is this, we have to create compelling content that's never been seen before. And one of the reasons we went subscription rather than advertiser with this, and it's very tough because we got to go up against the economics of paying for something. If you think about this, there has never been in the history of African American media where African Americans have had unfettered right to espouse their creativity. There's always been somebody saying, I don't like that show, therefore I'm Procter & Gamble, I'm not in it, the show goes off. There's a movie studio head that says, I don't want to tell that story doesn't get told. There are all types of gatekeepers, cable operator, I don't want to carry that programming, we're not going to carry, or we got one. That's why BET was the only black programming channel for 20 years before TV One came on. One, because I was stopping them, is because cable operators say one black channel is enough.
Was there a moment when you discovered the internet in the early 90s or whenever when you were like, this solves everything? When did it strike you that you no longer, that the gatekeepers were gone?
I've always been a pioneer. I always believed in wanting to be first. And so to me, I want to be first on the internet. And that's how I came to the internet, that I wanted to be first since it was a new technology, a new platform, a new focus on how to develop technology, how to use technology. Because every time there's a technological revolution, it has a rebounding impact on content. Radio made it, you can listen to radio. The technology created radio stories. Along came cable, people could see the people talking and see them, so pictures and talk. Along came television, and it was all over, available by DMAs, by distance, and whatever the microwave signal would stand. Then along came cable, you can have more choices. And on the internet, more choices. More choices mean more content. That's right.
I think what we'll do is, and I think Bob will stick around hopefully for a little bit afterwards, but what would you want to leave the students with? I'll give you the last word.
What I want to leave you with is those of you who are Strayer students, I've been on the board for 10 years. I think about 10 years, almost 10 years. I have never known an institution, and we're a business, and not just make no mistake about it, but I've never known an institution more committed to the quality of education and to put education first above the profit line, so that our commitment to academic excellence is without question. When we sit in our board meetings and we talk about everything, and obviously we got to talk about everything financial as well as we're a public company and all the things that go with that, you never hear a director talk about defaulting on our commitment to academic rigor and academic achievement for our students in any way that impacts our commitment in that way. So my thing is, I'll leave you with this. You are at an excellent, terrific, student-centered institution, and we are constantly looking ways to make the experience for the students who are here now and the students in the future even more effective and more engaging. So I would say tell all of your friends and families that, you know, if you want a great education, you got to put Strayer at the top of the list of institutions that you want to be involved with. That's what I do.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.